I am the light of my soul.
Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a great Tuesday. Today, we are talking about worrying. So, are you a worrier? Do you worry a lot? Do you engage in that act of worrying? It's an act, it's a doing. When we worry, we're actually doing something. So, is it possible to eliminate worrying? I know that we all worry. It's normal. It's part of this dual existence that we live in terms of experiencing both ends of the spectrum, right? So as human beings, it's very normal for us to worry. It's very normal for us to experience love and joy and inner peace. And it's also part of this game, this divine game that we're living to experience that other end of the spectrum, which is sadness, depression, anxiety, fear. And worry is part of it, of course, among other negative feelings. However, this game is all about us getting over the negative and moving more into that evolved state of beingness, which is above the duality, which is above feeling those low vibrational feelings. So it's about shifting our vibration to higher frequencies where there's more than just inner peace or love or joy as we know them. There's actually a higher degree of enlightenment, which involves feelings on a much higher level, different forms of love, a form of divine love that your cells will just embrace and embody in the most beautiful ways. So that's the point of this game, recognizing our true abilities and knowing ourselves and knowing what we're capable of to go past that survival state of beingness that we've been put in, we've been placed in, and we've been convinced that that's the way it happens. So you want to move from that survival mode to that thriving mode. And worrying seems to get us stuck in that survival mode. It wants to keep us in that survival mode even when we're successful, even when we have accomplished so much of what we want to accomplish. So it's that part of this thought pattern that keeps going in our mind, and it's challenging for many people to get over it and to eliminate it. So today we are going to talk about the best ways to eliminate worrying and why it actually happens. So as I said, it's normal for us to worry. If you're a mother, you worry about your child. You worry if you're going to a job interview whether you're going to get that job or not. If you're a parent as well, you worry about whether you're going to have enough money for your children to go to school. You worry about their college education. You worry about whether your children are going to be safe. We worry about ourselves. You worry about your own future, your own health. If you have blood tests, you worry about the results. If you're, for example, suffer from an illness, you worry whether you're going to actually recover. So we worry about everything basically when it comes to living. And so the brain tends to do that because it actually thinks it's protecting us, it's preserving us, because the brain is wired for survival. It's not wired for happiness. And this is because of the way we used to live as tribes. When humans were in tribes, when they lived in tribes, their worry was whether about they're going to survive the next day. So every action that they took was always about their survival. However, we don't have that same danger anymore. We don't live in those same circumstances, yet we still worry. We have carried this with us. The brain has carried these thought patterns with it and became programmed for worrying. So worry is like the appetizer for fear and anxiety. It actually is what fuels anxiety disorder and stimulates that fight or flight response that comes later on. By engaging in worrying all the time, it's part of us planning for the future because we think we're coming up with solutions to problems that are not even there. We just imagine problems and then we come up with solutions for those later on, thinking that by worrying about that and by doing that, we're actually taking care of our own survival. There's nothing wrong with coming up with solutions to problems. But when you start imagining a whole lot of potential problems that don't even exist, then you're weighing yourself down. You're placing burdens on yourself that don't necessarily have to be there. And this is because we as humans, when we plan for the future, we want to make sure that it's a good future. Worrying, however, can stop that from happening or can minimize the chances of us actually enjoying life while we get to that future. So we confuse worry with care. We think by worrying, we're actually caring. By worrying about ourselves, we're caring for ourselves. However, worry and care are not the one and the same. You can care for yourselves, you can come up with solutions, but without attaching that feel of worry to them. And this is something we need to not just understand on a mental level, but we need to embody. So let's say you worry about your child going on a long drive and you're worried that the car will crash, but the car doesn't crash. However, subconsciously, what your mind registers is, oh, because I worried about my child, nothing happened to them. So your brain actually thinks that it's doing a good thing by worrying. But you know that that's not the case. That's just the subconscious patterning. That's just the thought patterns. That's just how the brain connects events together. However, you, the soul, knows better because we have this tendency to think that we're always under some sort of trials, and therefore, if we're comfortable and happy, and if we don't worry, that means something is wrong. Even in Lebanon and in the Arab world, sometimes when people laugh so much, they go like, "Oh my God, something bad must be happening soon. Why are we laughing so much?" It's like we don't even think that we are worthy of happiness, which is a huge deal. And it says a lot about the way we think and the way we act and the way we connect with the universe and the world. And this has to be reversed. So if you don't feel like you have the right to be happy and comfortable, then of course you're going to engage in worry all the time, and you're going to feel that something is wrong if you're constantly happy and constantly comfortable. Maybe God's going to send in some trials soon, put you through more burdens and more challenges simply because you're happy and comfortable. See, that's the way the brain thinks. So we have to learn to accept being more carefree in terms of the way we think. We can find solutions to problems without attaching worry to them. We can plan for the future, but without attaching worry to that. Because if you're planning for something, but it's coming from a place of intense worry and you have that heavy energy attached to it, then this is not coming from a place of alignment. And no matter how many actions you take, yes, some of them might be fruitful, but that worry might take over. And therefore, we have to learn how to align ourselves with love instead of being aligned with worry and fear. It's easy to tell people to stop worrying. However, that doesn't really work because worrying is the result of hundreds of thousands or millions of years of evolution. So you can't just tell someone stop worrying and expect that to work unless there's a quantum leap in their energy. There's a quantum leap in their frequency. So you can't just tell people stop worrying and that worrying is useless and expect that to have results. So, however, we need to know that when we worry about others, what it does is that it weakens their aura. It weakens the strength of their energetic body. So when mothers worry about their children, what they're doing is that they're infusing worry and fear into the energy of the child most of the time, because especially, between a mother and a child, the cords are so strong and so tight. And therefore, when you're constantly worrying about your child, you're not infusing strength into them. You're infusing your own worries into them. You're directing those towards their energy field without you intending it and without you realizing it. So instead, what you want to do is send love. You want to align with that energy of love. And of course, I'm not going to expect you to stop worrying right away, but there are practices that I'm going to mention that will help you. Similarly, when you worry about your money, what you're doing is that you're infusing that energy of worry into your money, whether it's the money that exists or the money that wants to come to you. So you don't want to infuse fear and worry into your money. When you're so worried about getting a job, that feeling of worry is heavy energy. It's a burden that you're infusing into the possibility of getting a job. Some people say, yeah, but worry is what drives me. Anger can drive people, worry can drive people, fear can drive people to do things. While this might work, this has, however, some negative effects on your health. It has some negative effects on your own energy, even if it brings good results. So you don't want to weigh yourself down while you're going to achieve whatever it is you want to achieve. You want to make sure that you do it, like I said, from a place of alignment, because that's the lighter, more effective energy, which means you don't have to really kill yourself to get those results. You don't have to hustle so hard to get those results. You don't have to really work so hard and at the expense of your own health and your own emotional and mental well-being so that you can get to those results. So yes, they can be used as fuel, but they're not exactly the most effective way or the healthiest way for you to live and for you to exist. As a human being, you have superpowers, and one of those is the ability to manifest from a place of ease as opposed to a place of difficulty and hardship, and literally, as they say, killing yourself in order to get what you want and to receive what you want to receive. So we have to understand that there are two types of thoughts when it comes to worrying. There is worry, which is a thought, and then there is worrying, which is an actual action, because you tend to do it over and over and over again. You're doing the worrying, right? You're not just thinking it, you're doing that act of worrying. So these two types are as follows. The first type of worry, which is a random thought, because we have thoughts popping in and out of our minds all day long, right? So worry can be like, let's say, worrisome thoughts that may come into my mind, just pop in my head for one reason or another. So to understand worrying, we have to understand that there are two different types. There is worry, which is a thought, and then there is worrying, which is an act. You're actually doing the worrying over and over again. And there are different ways of dealing with these two types of thoughts. So for the first type of thoughts, these are the random thoughts. These are thoughts that are popping in and out of our head constantly throughout the day. And this is normal. We live in the sea of consciousness, sea of conscious thoughts. Everybody's thinking something. So thoughts are going to pop in and out of your head, whether they're from other people or from things that are going on with you. Now, the key to dealing with these random thoughts is not really to engage with them, not really to entertain them. Try to not struggle with them either. So you don't want to fight with these thoughts. You just want to observe them. Worrying thoughts might come in or they might leave your brain. And as the Buddhists say, treat your thoughts as guests. They walk in and they walk out. You walk out, but just don't serve them coffee. So do not entertain these guests. Let them walk in through the front door, out from the back door. So what happens if you struggle with these thoughts, if you fight with them, or if you engage with them, they tend to become more sticky. In other words, they overstay their welcome. So here you just want to observe those random thoughts. Now, the second type of thought are those that you actually dwell on. It's when you have these worry thoughts, but you just keep turning them over and over and over in your brain. You have a problem and you keep thinking about it, you dwell on it, you feed it with your worry, you feed it with those fearsome thoughts, and you keep thinking about it day after day after day, or you just keep thinking about it throughout your sleep even. So this is when you are actually doing the act of worrying. It's not something that's happening to you, it's something that you are doing. So how do we deal with this? If we use the analogy of the train, let's say if a train is moving really, really fast and it has picked up so much momentum, you cannot really stop the train all of a sudden. It's very hard, almost impossible to stop the train. Similarly, when people have been going through these thought patterns or embracing and embodying these thought patterns for years and years and years, you can't just tell them stop. They will not stop worrying. You can't just say stop worrying and expect them to. But what you can do is you can definitely change the direction of the train at any given point, and that's much easier to do. So what you can do is take that worry energy and tell it where and when to happen. So you can channel it in a totally different direction intentionally. And this is what you're going to do. This is the best exercise for you to look at that energy of worry and say, okay, worry, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to channel you in a different direction. You are going to schedule worry time every single day, 15 to 30 minutes. This is not a coping mechanism with worry. This is actually an exercise to train your brain to stop worrying. We are training our brain to change the way it functions by scheduling these 15 to 30 minutes every single day. You're going to bring a piece of paper and you're going to start writing down the things that you are worried about. You're going to say, okay, this is worry time. When you're writing them down on a piece of paper, this is actually telling your brain that you're serious, and your brain will take you seriously. Your brain will say, oh, okay, he or she, okay, they're thinking about the problems, they're worrying about them, they're finding solutions. So feel free to focus on one major problem that you may have. This is up to you, but know that this is not necessarily about finding a solution. This is about using that energy of worry and deciding to take control. So taking that energy of worry and doing something with it right now, making time for it, scheduling a specific time for it so that you don't dwell on it all day long. So let's say after you've written your problems down, you've sat with yourself for 15 to 30 minutes, you said, okay, this is my worry time. I'm going to worry about everything right now. You write them all down, right? And you're done with that. Okay. Let's say you do this and then you go about the rest of your day to do the things that are important to you, whether that's going shopping, looking after your child, picking them up from school, cooking, whatever it is that you need to do. Let's say you have a worry thought throughout this time. This is what you're going to tell yourself. Oh, worry thought, this is not your time. You're scheduled for, 4 p.m. tomorrow. You're scheduled for worry time tomorrow. So right now I have better things to do. Okay, worry time is tomorrow at 4 p.m. Make sure when you schedule worry time, it's the same time every single day. Don't do it early in the morning or right before you go to bed, because during these times you're supposed to relax. Do it somewhere where you're usually very busy, like at your office desk or your kitchen counter or living room. So don't associate it with relaxing time. Just sit there 15 to 30 minutes, write down whatever you need to write down, whatever you're worried about. If you want to come up with a solution, come up with a solution. Let's say if you're on a budget, maybe you can come up with a solution to save money for the month, but then don't dwell on it for the rest of the day. This is the time when you're allowing yourself to dwell on a specific worry or problem that you have. So that is how you redirect that train. And again, this is not a coping mechanism. This is an intentional exercise and it takes consistency. So you want to do this every single day. So what you're doing is you're redirecting your attention back to the present moment, whether it's spending time with your children or doing some work that you really need to do, or watching the sunset or hanging out with friends. If you find yourself out of shape, for example, and you're someone who does not engage in worrying, you will easily take action. You will join the gym or you'll start doing certain exercises at home. You will take up jogging or walking outside, going up and down the stairs. So it'll be easy for you to take action. However, if you find yourself that you're out of shape, but you're someone who worries a lot and you find yourself drowning in anxiety, engaging in negative self-talk, self-sabotage, starting to compare yourself with others, what you want to do is really go back to that exercise of scheduled worry and practice that over a few weeks. And it will really help you, because then when you take action, it's going to come from an aligned place and you will get long lasting results. Some people revert to distraction. So when they sense that they're worrying, they tend to distract themselves by looking at their phone, watching TV, or doing something that's of little value to them. What you're signaling to your brain when you do that is actually avoidance. And avoidance might bring short-term relief, but what it's actually telling your brain is reinforce anxiety. I'm avoiding this problem. I'm distracting myself from this problem. The brain is very smart. It's going to catch on quite soon. And it's going to say, listen, that means you have to think about this more often. So the worrying is going to come back and it's going to be more reinforced than before. So instead of distracting yourself, instead of taking up coping mechanisms, show your brain that you're serious. Take up the scheduled exercise, make it intentional. Another way of dealing with worrying would be through meditation. And this is actually extremely effective. When you, again, intentionally schedule 5 to 10 minutes every single day just to sit with yourself in silence, and intend to not just clear your mind, because that might be a bit challenging. Bring yourself to your heart space. Use your heart intelligence. Start with 5 minutes for the first week. Go up to 10 minutes the week after that, up to 15 minutes, and maybe half an hour after that. And make this a daily habit. Make this a daily exercise. When you go into your heart space, when you bring your awareness to your heart space, start imagining loving energy or white light or golden light coming out of your heart and expanding more and more and more. When you do this day after day after day, you're actually shifting your vibration, you're shifting your energy field, and your heart, as I always say, can clear your mind. So when you learn how to tap into the intelligence of the heart, you are really reshaping your thought patterns, because the heart is much more powerful. So take up this exercise day after day and start tapping into your heart's light, the light that's within you, because your heart is a portal. So that's also a very intentional way of rewiring your mind. You are telling your mind, I'm serious about this. I'm serious about this worrying thing. I don't want it to be a part of the way that I think, the way that I feel. Right. So, yeah, that's another way of dealing with worrying, and it's actually very impactful. So, this is what I had for you today about worrying. I hope that you live a very worry-free life to the best of your abilities. I hope that these exercises that I shared are helpful and that you take them up. And it's time for you to thrive and to live worry-free and know that you are worthy of all the joy, all the peace, all the happiness, and it will come your way the minute you decide that you are worthy of it. And the minute that you decide that you are a divine being, you are whole, you are holy, you are complete. So know thyself. Stop worrying, start living. I'll see you on Tuesday. Take care.